Hello, friends. Happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And today I am really excited to share with you some adorable projects made with the Pick of the Patch bundle from the Stampin' Up! 2020, no, yes, 2023 September December mini catalog. I almost said annual. And this bundle is just so adorable. It went right near the top of my wish list because I love pumpkins. I love all things fall. Last week I got to share some of the All About Autumn products with you. And this week I'm all about pumpkins. Now, for those of you that are local to me, if you've been to my front porch lately, you have seen my collection of pumpkins. I love pumpkins on the porch for fall. And so I've had a great time collecting some very unique and interesting looking pumpkins this fall. So if you are here watching and you can hear me, please let me know. Still working out the kinks in this new system. So give me a hello. Let me know that you are there and that all systems are go. I see Jeanette and Debbie. Hello, welcome, ladies. Hello, Jeanne. Thank you for phonetically spelling your name. It's always kind of hard. I know as a teacher, it is sometimes hard to know how to pronounce people's names. So I appreciate you giving me the phonetic spelling of your name out there in Oregon. Hi, Peggy. Welcome. All right. Hi, Jean. Welcome. I'm so happy you all are here. I'm going to try to regulate my voice a little bit because I have been using my voice a lot over the last week or so. Just finished up a big team event on Saturday where I did a ton of talking and my voice is paying the price. And then, of course, teaching all day certainly takes its toll as well. So let's see who else we have. We have Mary Ruth and we have Sandra, Maureen, Rosemary. Hello, welcome, ladies. All right, we are going to get started. I am going to spotlight my desk here and we are going to do some stamping. So here we go. Here is this adorable Pick of the Patch bundle. Now, this has got to be one of my all-time favorite pumpkin bundles that Stampin' Up! Has offered. So many different shapes of pumpkins, lots of greenery to accompany our pumpkins. We got a little crow. We've got a jack-o'-lantern face for making our jack-o'-lanterns. And then some cute, sort of punny sentiments as well. So cutie pie, get it? Pumpkin pie. Huh, cute, so cute. So that is the stamp set. And then, of course, we have the coordinating punch. Now, the punch cuts out two of the pumpkins in the set. So these two here that are at the right side of the stamp case, these ones, the punch does not fit, but they are quite easy to fussy cut, as you will see in a little bit. We also get one leaf and a stem as part of the punch. So it is a builder punch, which is awesome because we can do all kinds of cool things with that. So let me set these aside. I'm not going to set the punch too far away because we're going to use that today. But here we go. Hi, Judy. Hi, Margie. Welcome. Hi, Deb. How are you? All right, so here we go. This is the first card we're going to make today. Uses some Christmas paper and some non-seasonal paper. So I thought it would be fun to show how well this bundle will work with papers you may already have in your stash. So I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm going to tell you where all of these different papers came from, and away we go. So to start, I have a 4 by 5¼ inch piece of Smoky Slate. So this is a little bit of a sort of different take on autumn colors, a little bit softer than our bold reds and oranges and yellows that we get at this time of year here in Ontario. But here we go. So we have the Smoky Slate cardstock that's been embossed with the leaf fall embossing folder. Now, if you have not yet got this folder, this is one that was actually a carryover from last year and is still available as an online exclusive. So I love this folder. It's so pretty. And that's just a nice little subtle bit of texture to our project. Then we are going to, let me just dump out all my bits. It's too hard to reach in the bag and pull them all out. So then I have another piece of DSP. Now you're going to see this is an identical. That's because this card is actually part of my card buffet coming up this week, and I used all of this paper preparing the kids for that buffet. So this is just a slightly different pattern from that pack, but same color palette. Can you guess which pack it's from? I'm going to flip it over. It will probably give you a big hint. Does this help? It's from the Inked and Tiled DSP pack, which has so many cool botanical patterns. So this one is going to get glued onto our embossed panel about 1/4 inch in from the left, or from the right hand side, I should say. And I should also tell you this measures 2.5, nope, 2 3/4 by 4. Okay, so it's going to get glued right near that right edge, but not right up to it. So I'll add a little bit of glue here. And friends. Hi, Jeanne. How are you? Oh, you already said hello to you. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Louise. Welcome. Hope you all are having a good week. We are playing with the Pick of the Patch bundle this week. One of my faves. All right, so there we go. We've got our piece glued on. And then I have a piece of this cool wood grain pattern. This is from, well, if I flip it over, you're going to know. It's from the Joy of Christmas DSP. So again, easy to use, lots of pieces from non sort of seasonally specific, meaning not fall, DSP packs. We can use them on fall cards. That's what I love about Stampin' Up. So much versatility. Now this piece is cut to 1.5 by 5.25, and I am gluing it 3/4 of an inch up from the bottom edge of my panel here. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and glue this onto our card base. So this is a piece of Smoky Slate cardstock. It's 5.5 by 8.5. You're going to hear that measurement a lot today because all of our card bases start out this size. And then we've scored in the middle at 4.25. So we're going to go ahead and fold that in half along our score line. Hi, Penny. Welcome. Glad you could join me today. I'm going to go ahead and add a bit of glue. I do like to use liquid glue when I am gluing an embossed panel. Just because I feel like I get better adhesion than with tape. Sometimes the tape doesn't get into all the little nooks and crannies on the embossed pattern, and I feel like the liquid glue does a little bit better job of that. So there we go. There is our card base done. Now we're going to work on some pumpkins. So to start, there are a couple of my stems. I should have one more. Where's my other stem? Oh, I'm missing a stem. It's probably on the floor somewhere. All right, so this is a white circle that has been cut using the stylus shapes dies. This is the second largest circle in that die set. Okay, hi Laura. Hi Marlene, welcome. So I am going to bring in my Lost Lagoon ink. No, except I don't think I brought it over. What the heck was I thinking? Is it still in my rack? Yes, it is. Silly me. There we go. So we've got Lost Lagoon ink, and we are going to stamp some vines and a couple of leaves on our white circle here, just to kind of provide a little bit of a backdrop for our pumpkins. So I'm going to bring in, let's start with some vines. So there are 2 different vine images in this set. So I'm just going to stamp a couple kind of wherever. These guys probably are not going to be overly visible, but it's nice to just have a little bit of interest in the background. Then I'm going to bring in my leaf stamp. We're going to add a couple of these, sort of here and there. Maybe I'll add another one that way. We're just kind of winging it. Okay. Then we're going to stamp some pumpkins. I'm going to set this aside and bring in my pumpkins. Where's my other one? There it is. So I'm going to work from lightest to darkest just so I don't have to clean my stamp in between. And I'm going to start with my large pumpkin. Now, whenever you are using a builder punch, you want to look at which way your images are oriented in the punch to make sure that you stamp in that direction. Okay, so this large pumpkin is this one right here. So I'm going to stamp near the right edge, and I'm going to make sure I stamp it upright. So it's going to go right about there. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and punch it right off the top. There we go. Okay, next I'm going to do my medium pumpkin. Actually, while I have this ink out, let's do our little spots on our pumpkin. I love this little polka dot texture stamp to add just a little bit of interest to the pumpkin. So I'm doing tone on tone with the same shade of ink. This is Petal Pink ink, I should mention. Then I'm going to come in with some Calypso Coral. So again, drawing my color palette from the DSP, which I do all the time. People often comment on how they love how well I come up with color combinations, but I just steal them from the DSP. I'm not a color genius. So this particular pumpkin is kind of laying on its side, okay, with the bumps to the inside. So when I stamp this one, I want to make sure that I stamp it. I'm going to do it this way, and I'm going to do it close to the left edge because that's going to allow me to punch that out. That's not a very good image. Let's try that again. See if we can do a better job of that. There we go. That's better. So then we're going to punch this one out like this. Hi, Diana. I'm glad you joined me live. Thank you for jumping on. I hope you are well and having a good day. All right, so we'll pop that one out. And then we need a couple of leaves. Now, I forgot to cut myself a little strip. So we're actually going to pull in our trimmer and cut a narrow little strip, because the way the leaf is situated in the punch, you want to use a narrow, whoop, that's too narrow. That won't fit our leaf. Let's make this 3/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch, anywhere in that range will work for the leaf. And I'll show you why as soon as I get my trimmer out of the way. So if I bring back my punch, to see how the leaf is way down here at the bottom. So ideally, I'm going to use a narrow little strip to punch so that I don't waste a whole bunch of cardstock. If I shoved a whole sheet of cardstock in there, I would waste all of this because I would lose that to the pumpkins. Okay, so we're going to stamp our leaf a few times and then punch them out. Hi, Laura, welcome. So my leaf is upright, so I'm just going to kind of work my way across here. I just had to put an inky fingerprint on my cardstock. Who's ever done that before? I am sure I'm not the only one. At least I hope I'm not. All right, so now I'm going to work my way across and just punch out my leaves. So I'm going to start with this one, which is a little low, but that's okay because I'm not going to see that bottom edge. So there's 1 and 2 and, well, let's do this one first because it's easier to reach. 3. And then this one's going to take a little finagling. Sometimes you can grab it from both sides and you're okay. You know what? I think I'm probably okay with 3. I'm not going to fight with that one. All right, so there we go. There's our little leaves. And we need 1 more pumpkin. We're going to stamp our tall, skinny pumpkin in Pebbled Path. So I'm going to ink that guy up. And this guy we're going to fussy cut. So there's our pumpkin. It looks very dark. It will lighten up. This is a juicy ink pad. So this is about the easiest thing to fussy cut ever. It's kind of like cutting a football, except without the pointy ends. So we're just going to follow the image, moving our paper, not our scissors. You all know the drill. You watched me fussy cut a million times. Somebody on Saturday said it wouldn't be alive at 5 if Lena didn't fussy cut at least once. All right, so here we go. We are going to arrange all of our little pumpkins. Now, this guy needs, where's my glue dot? So there. This guy needs a stem. I am short 1 stem, so one of our pumpkins is going to be stemless, but that's okay. I actually have a stemless pumpkin on my porch as we speak. It broke off as I was carrying it from the car. So I'll add, and I like to change up the orientation and angle of my stems just to make it look a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to add a little bit of seal to the back of my tall, skinny pumpkin. And he's going to be way up top here. It's going to look like he's floating for a minute, but not for long. And then these guys are going to come in. You see how that's going to just ground Mr. Tall Skinny, and we're all good. Okay, so we're going to add a couple of dimensionals to the back of our big chubby pumpkin here. Let's get actual dimensionals. I pulled that out and my sheet had nothing on it. We'll add this guy. And then this one, I'm just going to put 1 dimensional here and a little bit of tape. So this is going to be our stemless pumpkin. And it's going to go right beside like that. And then we're just going to take and tuck our leaves in. And I find the easiest way to do that is to just add a glue dot and then tuck. So this one's going to go kind of down here. And we will add 1 in here. And we'll do 1 more. We'll do 1 in behind Mr. Chubby Pumpkin here. That glue dot did not stick to my leaf. Let's try that again. There we go. We'll tuck that one in there like that. Okay, so there's our little arrangement of pumpkins. Now we're going to layer that on a deckled circle. So this is a new die set that is in the mini catalog, has 13 circle dies in it. The largest one is 6 inches in diameter, which is awesome. And so we are going to go ahead and add that layer. Hi, Sharon. Welcome. You didn't miss much. Laura, you didn't miss much. I've just been chatting about how much I love this bundle and how much I love pumpkins. So you didn't miss anything about other than me yammering on about pumpkins. All right. So now this is going to get glued on, just kind of centered behind our lighter colored DSP there. Okay. So again, I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid glue to glue that guy on. So, and I like to have it a little bit higher. I'm a big fan of not perfectly centering things. So if you look, this wood grain piece is kind of running across the bottom 2/3 of my circle rather than having it centered. Okay, that's just a little design tip for you. And then on our little strip, which I just happen to have cut, and it's a good thing I did because I forgot to cut one ahead of time, I'm going to stamp my Harvest of Blessings sentiment. So I'm just going to stamp it. I'm using Pebbled Path ink. And then we're going to cut the ends of this into a little banner. So this is my little banner trimming trick. So I'm going to cut this down a little bit. So you're going to, in the middle of your snip, you're going to snip in as far as you want the points of your banner to go. And then you're going to go from one corner in and the other corner in. Now, if you have a punch that will do that, awesome. When I'm not doing videos, I tend to use a punch, but it's retired, so I'm not going to show you which punch because you can't get it anyway. But let me show you again. So in as far as I want my banner ends to go, and then one corner and the other corner. And that's how you get your banner nice and even. Okay. All right. Now, before we glue that on, we're going to add a cute little bow from this awesome, what's it called? Just called bordered ribbon. I don't know really why it's called bordered ribbon. It looks like a lovely sort of washed linen. I don't really see the border part of it, but anyway, that's what it's called. It's in Lagoon. It's lovely and sort of rustic and fallish, so it works really, really well with this project. So we'll get that out of the way. It is part of the Inked and Tiled suite as well, I should mention. Okay, so I'm going to add a glue dot to the end of my banner. And I'm going to stick my bow just like that. Then I'm going to add another glue dot to the back of my bow. And it's actually going to kind of act as a dimensional. It's going to pop up the one end of my banner. Then I'm going to add another dimensional, or maybe even the edge of my dimensional sheet that is sitting here. And we're going to go ahead and stick that onto our card. Oh, except that's a little bit too long. Wouldn't you know? Let's get rid of a little bit of that. See, I thought I was being smart using an edge piece and I cut too long a piece. That'll teach me. All right. I'm going to add just a smidge of tape where it's going to overlap my popped up pumpkin here. And we'll go ahead and stick that on, hopefully straight-ish. There we go. And then our last touch are some of these fabulous Pebbled Path dots. They're like glossy dots, polished dots. They're in the annual. They're the in color embellishments for this year. And they work quite nicely with our color palette. So I'm just going to add a couple of these guys. There we go. And that's our finished card. And I'll just quick show you on the inside of my sample. I added another stamped panel on the inside and punched out a couple more pumpkins and added them. Okay. So there we go. Hi, Mary. Welcome. Glad you could join us. We just finished our first card and we're moving on to number 2. So I'm just going to clean up my mess here a little bit and bring in number 2. Whoops, sorry, I moved my camera there. Now, number 2, I've already done all my stamping and punching of pumpkins because I really want to focus on this fun background that I created. So I posted this earlier today, and the pumpkins are cute and all, but I really want to show you how to get this cool background effect. So it almost looks like it's embossed, but it's not. It's just stamped and then has a little bit of ink blending. So let's get to that. I will show you how we make that. So I'm going to pull out my Crumb Cake cardstock to start. It's just a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece. But isn't it amazing that this becomes this? Okay, so I'm going to show you how to make that work. Let me get that out of the way. And we are going to start. Let me just, I didn't bring my scrub over. Okay, we're just going to stamp off. There we go. We'll stamp this one off too. And this one, because we're going to use all of the sort of little accessory stamps in the stamp sets. We're using this little branch, we're using these leaves, we're using the vines to create an interesting background. So I'm stamping in pecan pie ink on Crumb Cake cardstock. And I'm going to start with the largest image. So anytime you're trying to create a collage effect, it is best to start with the largest image and work downwards in size. Okay, that just makes it easier, because if you start with a bunch of small images, then it's hard to fit the larger ones in, and you don't want them to overlap for this look. Okay, so I'm starting with this little branch. I'm just going to stamp a few here and there. I'm going to rotate my stamp so some are upside down. I'm not worrying too much about the middle because it's going to be covered with my focal image, but we do want to make sure we get the edges covered. Okay, really simple. Next, I'm going to come in with these little leaves. Looks like a little sort of bunch of leaves that are blowing around in the fall, as they are apt to do at this time of year. So we'll add a few of these. Maybe another one there. Keep that one handy. I might want to add some more. Next, we're going to add these little dots. So these are the dots that we added for texture on our pumpkin earlier, but they're also going to add some fun texture on our background. So we'll just do a couple of these. Maybe a couple down there. We'll do a couple up here. And then I'm going to bring in my little vine. And again, you want to rotate your image so that they're not all matchy-matchy and facing the same direction. The other thing you want to make sure of is that you extend off the edge of your page. Okay, that's really important when you're doing this look, because you want it to look like it's cut from a larger piece of cardstock. Okay, and if you don't have your pieces going, or your images going off the edge, it looks a little odd. Okay, now I am going to come back with my vine. I'm actually going to stamp off a couple as well, just to add a little bit of depth here. We're going to get even more depth when we add our ink blending. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, now we get to have fun with the blending brush. So I'm using my large blending brush just because I'm going to be covering a large surface area. I'm going to pick up some ink, and I always like to start in one corner when I'm doing this. So I'm going to start off the page and come on from the corner. And what this is going to do, it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to not only add sort of some nice shading of ink, but it's also going to blur our stamped images a little bit, because they are the same ink, they're water-based. And so when we add more moisture from another layer of ink, it is going to blur them a little bit, and that's okay. We kind of want that effect. So I'm just going to come on around the edges. So I like to start and just kind of put a uniform layer down all the way around to start. And then I can come back and darken some areas a little bit more. Barry, you're dating yourself. I actually said that last week. I felt like I was, I can't remember the teacher's name from Romper Room, but I always felt like I was always bitter because my name was never, ever called on Romper Room. Yours, I'm sure, was. It's a little bit more common than Alina was back in the 1970s. All right, so I'm coming back now that I've got all the way around, and I'm going to just add a little bit more color. I like it to be a little bit darker around the edges. And you can make this as dark as you like. I'm going fairly dark here because I really like that sort of deep, rich color here. But isn't it amazing what just one shade of ink on colored cardstock can do? So next time you're wanting to create an interesting background, rather than starting with white cardstock, start with colored and then work with a shade or two darker than whatever color you start with, and you can get some really neat effects with it. All right, that's looking pretty good. Again, I'm not worrying about the center because it's going to get covered, but isn't that a neat background? It almost looks like it is embossed. All right, let's put the rest of this card together. We've done all the hard work. The rest is really just assembly. So let's get this out of the way. I have very inky fingers, but that's all right. Now I've done, as I said, all of my stamping and cutting and punching and fussy cutting and everything ahead of time, just in the interest of time here. So I have a piece of DSP that is actually from the Let's Go Fishing pack. I love this gingham pattern that is on the back of the fish in that pack. So we're going to center that on the front of our emboss panel. I'm going to use a little bit of seal just because the panel is still fairly damp because I did put a lot of ink down. And if I add the liquid glue, it's just going to take a long time to dry. So there we go. All right, now I have a bazillion pumpkins here. I'm going to start by adhering the stems. Now I'm going to bring in, my glue dots. And this is a little trick I picked up from Patty Bennett. Patty Bennett is a friend of mine. She is an amazing demonstrator from the US. Some of you may follow her. She does this little trick with her glue dots. So if she has a lot of little bits that she wants to glue, she just sticks them all onto a strip of glue dots like this. And then they're ready to go, and you don't have to fuss with the roll of glue dots with each little image. So that is a really hot tip for dealing with fussy little bits when you have to glue them. So I'm going to tear this off. So there are my leaves ready to go. Now for my pumpkins, I'm actually going to add the glue dot to the pumpkin, to the back of the pumpkin. And then I've already stamped and punched a whole bunch of stems rather. So I'm just going to go ahead and add them really quickly. I do like to mix up which end of the stem I use. So on this one, I use the skinny end. On this one, I use the thicker end. Kind of fun to mix it up that way. And to kind of change the angle as well, because not all pumpkin stems are straight, as I have discovered as I have been looking at pumpkins this year. Yes, Patty is amazingly talented. She is, yeah, she's a huge inspiration. Love her. All right, so my color palette, I should tell you what I stamped all of these little gourds in. So I'm using pumpkin pie for the large ones. These sort of point or bumpy ones are Cajun Craze. And then I've used wild wheat and copper clay. All right, so that is my palette for the pumpkins. The leaves and vines are all stamped in Mossy Meadow. So in case you're wanting to recreate this look, you know what I did and aren't having to guess. Okay, so now we have all our pumpkins arranged. We have our little vines here that we will add. So now it's really just a matter of sort of arranging them. So it's kind of like floral arranging, but with pumpkins. So we're just going to start kind of placing them on our card here. Let's do one of these guys over here. And maybe we'll add, no, let's do this guy first. And then we can add our big one. I kind of was going for like a stack of pumpkins. You know, when you go to the pumpkin patch and they have these huge stacks of pumpkins, that's what I was going for here. So it kind of looks like that. Now I actually didn't need to pop any of these up. They're all glued flat, mainly because they're so layered. If I started popping, this card would be way too thick. So I'm just going to add a little liquid glue and pop them back into place. The nice thing about arranging ahead of time is that you kind of know exactly where you want to put them, and then it's just a matter of sticking them down. So a little bit of glue. And then we'll add this guy. And let's do these guys at the bottom first. So I'll add this one, and then I'm going to add this little guy. I love wild wheat for fall. I knew I would when I first saw this new in color, and it has not disappointed me. Love this shade for autumn cards. And our last tall skinny pumpkin. And then I'm going to add a couple of vines. So I'm just going to add just a smidge of glue here and kind of tuck them in here and there. We'll add one kind of in behind this big guy here. And let's put one more up top somewhere. The vines, I kind of like having them sticking up. You can glue them flat if you're worried, but I like that they kind of pop off the page. And now we get to add our leaves. So we're going to just use our take your pick and just see how easy it is to pick these little leaves up. And then we can tuck them in wherever we want to add a leaf. Thank you, Patty, for your brilliance. There we go. And we'll add a couple down along the bottom. I'm going to tuck this guy in underneath this skinny Mr. Pumpkin here. And we'll put one under here. It's really just a matter of adding them wherever you feel like it needs a little pop of green. I'm going to add one back here. I may not even need to use all of these. Pop one there. I think I like that. Good. Done and done. Now, to make our little sign, these are just 1/2-inch strips of Crumb Cake cardstock that I have embossed using the Timber embossing folder. And then in the gorgeously made dies, there is a die that cuts this exact shape. It looks like a sort of a torn piece of paper, but when you emboss it with a wood grain, it looks like a broken piece of wood. So this is going to create our sign. So I stamped. So if you are going to emboss, you want to stamp first and then emboss. Okay, you'll get a better image. If you emboss first and then stamp, your image won't be quite as clear. Not as important if it's an image, but if it's words, you kind of want to be able to read them, right? So we're going to go ahead and add just a little bit of seal here and create our sign. And I kind of like doing it a little bit crooked. And then this is going to just kind of tuck in behind our pumpkin. I'm going to trim it a little bit shorter. We're going to put a little bit of glue. There we go. Hi, Martine. Welcome. Oh, thanks, Mary. I like playing around with this stuff. I like arranging and seeing what I can do. I'm going to rotate that a bit. There we go. There is our little arrangement. And now it's just a matter of putting it on our card base. I have a Mossy Meadow cardstock base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. So we'll go ahead and fold along our score line. And look at the difference, right? It's amazing to me what just a little bit of ink can do, how it can so change the look of a piece of cardstock. All right, so let's pop this on. And we are done. Now, we need to add some bling. What did I do with I did have some sequins somewhere. I don't know what I did with them. They were here and now they have vanished. So let me show you. On my sample, I did add some copper colored adhesive back sequins. I don't know what I did with them. They were here, but they have vanished. So I will add them to this one later. Now on the inside of this one, stamped a couple pumpkins and another little sentiment, and we're done. Isn't that cute? Love it. All right, next. We're going to do a little bit of a fun fold because, well, I love fun folds and I love pumpkins. So why not make a fun fold pumpkin card, right? All right. So this one is just a really simple easel, center step easel card. So it folds up like this. Cute little pumpkin arrangement to sit on the table or mantle during the holidays or the fall holiday season, Thanksgiving particularly. So I'm going to show you how to make this one. If you've never made one of these cards before, it is an easy fun fold to start. So if you are fairly new to fun folds, this is a really great one to start with. I need a couple of pumpkins here. Just want to make sure that they are clean. I'm moving all the brown inky ones out of my way so I don't end up with a mess. And away we go. So our card base to start, again, starts out as 5.5 by 8.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. I'd mentioned that dimension was going to be, you're hearing it a lot today. So all three of our card bases are the exact same dimensions. All right. Now this one has a couple extra cuts and scores. So I'm going to turn this around. And so the first thing you want to do after you've done your 4 1/4 inch score line is you're going to measure 1 1/4 inches in from both ends. You're going to cut from the top edge down to that score line. Okay. So 1 1/4 here and 1 1/4 here. All right. Then you're going to turn it around and you're going to score this middle section at 2 1/8 inches. All right, it looks kind of complicated. It's really not. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and fold. So I'm going to bring down my side panels first. And this is where you just want to take your time because when you have a narrow little strip like this, the fold can kind of go a little wonky on you. So just take your time to line up the edges and make sure that that's nice and straight. Okay, and then we're going to do a bit of layering. So let me pull in my bits here. I got a lot of bits for this one. All right, so we're going to start with some Pretty Peacock cardstock. This is 1 1/8, so 1/8 of an inch narrower than these little panels. And I have 2 pieces of Glorious Gingham in the Pretty Peacock that are 1 by 4. So these are 1 1/8 by 4 1/8. These are 1 by 4. So you'll see when I layer them, I'm going to have a nice narrow little border. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that first. And again, when I'm working with narrow borders, I like to use liquid glue so I can wiggle them into place and make sure everything's nice and straight and even. Same thing on this one. Little smidge of glue. And wiggle that guy into place. All right, now these are going to get glued on these side strips. But before we glue them down, we're actually going to glue these strips right to our card base here. So I'm going to close this. And again, I just want to make sure that my edges are straight, everything lines up. Same thing on this side. Close that one up. Okay, now I can go ahead and glue my panels on, and I don't have to fuss with those little strips flopping around. So a little bit of glue. We'll pop that one on there. And this one over here. Just like that. Okay, easy peasy. Now for this center panel, we're going to go ahead and fold it down as well, just as though we were closing our card. Again, making sure that our edges line up, everything's nice and straight. Okay, now this extra score line, we're going to create a mountain fold because that's going to form our easel. So I'm just going to pinch this in and again, burnish it. Okay, and that's going to be able to, or that's going to form our easel that will allow our card to pop up. Okay, now to decorate that center panel, I have 2 more pieces of Pretty Peacock cardstock. These are 2 by 2 7/8. The width of this piece here is 3 inches. So 2 7/8 is just 1/8 of an inch narrower. You can see how that's going to fit on there. Okay, then I have some of that All About Autumn DSP. I have 2. I did have 2. There's the other one. Panels, again, to go with my 2 pieces of cardstock. And these are 1 7/8 by 2 3/4. Again, 1/8 of an inch smaller than my Pretty Peacock. So we're going to go ahead and glue those on to start. We'll layer them on our peacock. Get that centered on there. And same thing with the other one. I went to get another bottle of liquid glue out of my stash yesterday, and lo and behold, I am right out. I have no more bottles of liquid glue. I was shocked. That never happens. So I quickly put in an order to get some more sent on its way because it would be really difficult to craft without liquid glue. So now these little panels are going to get glued onto this center section. Now I'm actually going to do this with this shut because, again, I like to look across the top there and make sure that those top edges on my layers line up. And that's, again, the OCD in me. I like everything to line up and be nice and straight and even. I'm going to flip it around, do the same thing on the bottom panel. So we'll add that one on. And the crazy thing is you're not even going to see much of these panels because we're going to cover it with pumpkins, but you know, I'll know that it's not straight and that will bother me. Okay, there we go. That's our card front done. Now we are going to stamp some more pumpkins and punch them out. I've already done the fussy cut ones just in the interest of time. So let me dump all of these bits out. I have a large panel of white cardstock to punch with. I probably didn't need this much, but it was what happened to be sitting on my desk. So we're going to start by stamping our Pretty Peacock pumpkins. And again, we're going to be using the punch. So we're going to punch near the left edge because we're going to punch near the right edge because that's the way they're going to feed into the punch. So we're going to do one there, and I'm going to rotate and do another one here. And that's going to give me my peacock pumpkins. So let's punch them out. So there's a 1. And there is a 2. Okay, so there are those 2. And then my other ones are stamped in copper clay. So let's get this out of the way. And we're going to bring in our bumpy pumpkins, and they are going to be punched near the right edge and on their side so that they will fit in the punch easily. Now my copper clay ink pad is super juicy, so I should get nice images with these guys. They'll look quite dark initially, but we'll lighten up as we go here. So let's punch those out. So here we go with one. And why can't I line this up? There we go. Because I'm on live video, that's why. All right. So there are all our pumpkins. I have a whole bunch of stems. These are just punched from gray granite cardstock. I didn't stamp them first this time. I just punched them, which looks just fine. So again, we're going to go ahead and adhere our little pumpkins to their stems. And again, the easiest way to navigate this is to just put your glue dot on the back of your pumpkin rather than on the stem. It can be a little bit frustrating to work with those little teeny tiny bits when you're using glue dots. So I'm going to flip some stems over and orient them differently so I get an interesting little arrangement here. And let's do that. And I didn't punch enough stems for all my pumpkins, but that's okay because we're not actually going to see the tops of all of them. So there we go. There's all our pumpkins, and it's time to do some more arranging. This is going to look shockingly similar to what we did on the last card. However, we are going to pop a couple of these guys up. So our big chubby boy is going to be down here, and we're going to have another one kind of up here. Now, this is a really important point, okay? When we are arranging our pumpkins, we want to make sure that our card is going to open. So, for example, I'm going to add this guy up here. If I glue him flat to this top section, I won't be able to open my card, okay? So I'm going to glue this little pumpkin. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom half of him. And we are going to add him behind, whoops, I just got a nice little bit of glue on my pumpkin there, but I'm sticking him to the back of this big pumpkin rather than up here onto my panel, okay? That's really important. Don't glue your card shut. So now I'm going to add a little bit of glue to the bottom of my chubby pumpkin here. And I'm going to adhere it. And you see how that's still going to open? All right, that's an important, I can't stress enough, don't glue your card shut. All right, now let's add a couple more. We'll add this guy here. These guys are stamped in gray granite ink. And we will add this guy. I'm getting glue all over my fingers today. I don't usually do that. I must be really tired. It's been a very hectic month. I am looking forward to our Thanksgiving in a couple of weeks when I can catch my breath. I'm actually not hosting Thanksgiving this year. Last year I hosted the entire family, and it was quite a lot. So I am taking a year off, and I'm just going to chill. I am going to make turkey for our family, but we're not doing the big to-do this year. All right, so there we go. There's my little pumpkin arrangement. And again, we're going to add a few leaves. So we need to stamp and punch those. So this time I did remember to cut a narrow little strip for my leaves. And we're going to stamp a few of these across here in the Pretty Peacock ink. You do want to space these out fairly well, just because when you're feeding them through the punch, sometimes you lose a little bit of the leaf on to one of the pumpkins when you're punching them. All right, so let's feed these across. See, this pumpkin sometimes chops out some of your leaf if you're not careful, if you put them too close together. So there's one. I love when you punch and they go flying, and then it's a scavenger hunt to figure out where they went. I'm usually having to find them, you know, on the floor amongst all of my dimensional backings and everything else. Oh, what happened there? I don't know why it did that. So let's get this back to, let's spotlight this. Don't know what happened there. That was bizarre. It just suddenly switched views. That was weird. All right, now you can see my desk again, I hope. All right, so let's grab all of our pumpkins and separate them from the bits, and then we're going to go ahead and add them here and there behind our little pile of pumpkins. Now I'm going to add one right up at the top I'm putting my glue dot on the front side of my, see, this is why we do Patty's trick, because that leaf does not want to come off. We're just going to stick these on and then rip off our strip. And then I'm going to try and get this off with my, see, so much easier. I'm going to add this one kind of tucked in behind there. And then we're going to add, let's put one right in here. And then we'll add one back in here. And one more. Where will we put the last one? Let's put it, no, let's put it right here. There we go. All right. Last touch is to do our sentiment. So we have a label. This is cut from the, what is it? Wonderful Thoughts dies. I love that where I sit here, all of my dies are displayed right here. So I can just look when I forget the name, it's right there. So we need Harvest of Blessings. Where's my Harvest of Blessings stamp? There it is. And we're going to stamp that in Pretty Peacock. So let's just make sure we get most of that pebbled path off there from the first card. And we'll stamp that on our cute little label. You like seeing my full desk? Okay, there's differing views on the split screen or not split screen. Some people like being able to see my face. Others, I would be quite happy never to show my face because then I wouldn't have to worry about, what I look like. But I know some people do like to see my face. So it's always interesting to hear different perspectives on that. All right, so let's add a couple of leaves. So these you will recognize if you watched last week's video. These are from the Autumn Leaves dies. And I've cut them from a little bit of the oxidized copper specialty paper, which happens to be Pretty Peacock. So it works with our color palette here. So now we're going to stick this on, but again, we want to make sure that we do not stick it to our panel above the fold. So what I'm going to do is actually put my dimensionals, I'll put them on and then show you. I'm going to put my dimensionals right across just below the fold. Okay, and that is going to ensure that when I stick on my label here, I don't accidentally prevent my card from standing up. So now we can go ahead and add our sentiment. See how that works? Magical, isn't it? All right, now let's add our cute little double twine bow. So this is a little bit of linen thread. I just folded it back on itself and I just make my bow. I just do a loop and wrap it around. So it's kind of like tying a bow without tying a knot first. That's how I do that. And then we're going to go ahead and trim off our excess. I got a little carried away. I got lots of excess on that one. That's okay. And that is going to get stuck. That's still too long. There we go. That's going to get stuck on the end of our label with a glue dot. So let's do that. Just like that. And I just realized I used all of my leaves on the front and I didn't leave myself one for the inside to pop up. So we will have to stamp a couple more. For the inside of our card, we are going to add a white panel. This again is 2 7/8. Yes, 2 7/8 by 4 1/8. And we are going to stamp some leaves, first of all, across the top, sort of stamped off. So we are going to line this up. I like to use my grid paper, and it's going to come about 3/4 of an inch down from the top edge. Okay, so I'm going to take my Pretty Peacock, ink up my leaf. I'm going to stamp off, and I'm going to come across, and I'm going to kind of do these sort of any which way, all the way across my little panel here. And I want them to be relatively straight. Okay, not a perfectly straight line, but relatively straight. Okay, now I need another little strip because I used all my leaves. I should have saved a couple. Let's just cut a strip out of here. Let's get rid of this. And let's do that. All right. Now we're going to stamp 2 more leaves because we need something to catch our easel. So if you've made easel cards before, you know that it is important to have something to catch your easel so that it stays standing when it's standing on your desk. So we're going to punch a couple more leaves here. And we're going to have our leaves be our catch for our easel. So there's 1, And two. I'm going to put a couple of mini dimensionals on the back of these because they do need to be popped up. They will not catch if they are glued flat. And then we are going to go ahead and glue this inside our card. So I'm going to bring back my card here. We're going to glue our stamped panel inside first. So a little bit of liquid glue. And we'll pop this in. And again, it should line up with my outside panels. See how it goes nice and straight across the bottom there? Yeah, that's me being super picky. All right, so then we're going to go ahead and add our leaf. So what I like to do is take off my backings, bring in my leaf, and I like to stand up my easel the way I want it. I'm going to want it to go. Okay, and then I'm going to add one leaf here. And I could probably get away with one, but I always feel better when I have two. We're going to add our second one right about, whoopsie, right about there. And there we go. There's our cute little easel. Lying flat and standing up. So there you go. That's both. All right, now let's add a couple of sequins here. I have some of the, what are these? Neutrals, I think they're called. They are also from the annual catalog. So we're going to add a couple of these just in amongst our pumpkins because, you know, fall cards should sparkle too. There we go. And we are done. There is our finished easel card. Let me bring in our other two that we made today. And then I'll show you a couple more ideas with this cute bundle. So there is one and two. Oh, I found my missing stem. I just saw it over there. It flew away. All right. Couple more ideas with this one. So Halloween, of course, I mean pumpkins and that cute little jack-o'-lantern face. So here I've used some of the Them Bones Designer Series paper. And this is actually one of the pre-designed cards panels that comes as part of that paper. So there are segments that you can cut to use as panels on your card. So this is a really cute one. And I added some of the glow-in-the-dark bats and ghosts, which are back in stock, I might add. They had been out of stock for a couple of weeks and now they are back. And added a cute little sentiment and then this was just scrap that was left laying on my desk. And I just thought, well, let's make a cute little card tag to go with our card. So make a cute little gift ensemble. Here is one, again, using some of that glorious gingham DSP. I don't know what it is about pumpkins and gingham, but I love them. So a little bit more traditional fall palette. And I've used the cane weave embossing folder on this one. I thought it looked a little bit like a basket. And then finally, this is one that we did during my launch party featuring the same bundle. Again, there's that gingham. I can't get enough of it. Gingham and wood grain. How cute would it be to do a whole set with those, with that color palette? So there you go. There are some ideas using the Pick of the Patch bundle from the Stampin' Up! September-December mini catalog. I hope you enjoyed them. Thanks for joining me today, everyone. And I will see you next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.